I've often done when I'm working with a tooth that has too much set put in it. I'll actually use the spider, and I'll be talking later in much more detail about what it actually does. I'll actually use the spider on the tooth and run it across, and if it's got too much set in it, of course the tip of the tooth will be hitting the spider. I'll tip the saw over and I'll hammer on this side with the axis of the hammer going this way, parallel to the bend in the tooth, and strike it out that way. Now, it's useful to know just where in the tooth here the bend is. Sometimes it may be up here fairly close to the tip of the tooth. Sometimes, especially with a lance tooth saw that doesn't have this bridge in here, it may be clear at the base of the tooth. And it's important to strike where the bend actually is. And you can tell by putting a straight edge on the tooth and rocking it back and forth, and it'll quickly tell you, just where the bend in that tooth is. You may end up running into situations where you've got a little bit of just a high spot kind of in the center of the saw, and that can be pretty well reduced or taken out by hammering just in the area where that bump is. You use the face of the hammer that has whose axis is parallel to the long axis of your bump. Generally, the bend in a saw is where it's been bent sharply for some reason, and then it hasn't returned to its original shape. So what you're trying to do is just bend the saw back into its proper shape. What is helpful is to have an anvil which is relatively soft. It has some give in it, so that when you hit the saw with a hammer like this, the anvil behind it actually gives a little bit and allows the metal to bend. And so what I find works really well is an anvil which is made out of mild steel. This particular anvil is made out of a piece of 2-inch plate, weighs about 40 pounds. And so I found it works very well for taking the bend out of a saw. I, for a number of years, ended up using a standard shoeing anvil or blacksmith's anvil. And that worked pretty well for me. It has, of course, a hardened, chilled face on it, but in spite of that, I found that it would work pretty well. The one thing that I found that you have to be really careful using a blacksmith's anvil is a lot of them have a pretty marred surface to them, and just from the blacksmith work. And in order not to damage your saw, you need to make sure that you hammer on a part of the surface that's quite smooth. Either that, or you can take like an angle grinder and grind the surface quite a bit smoother, so you have a smooth area to work on.